The story follows two nations, the Empire and the Nebulous Sovereignty. The two nations are enemies because those that live in Nebulous are considered witches. The witches possess astral powers that the Empire sees as dangerous. A year ago, a saint disciple of the Empire, Iska, frees a young mage from her prison cell. This led to his arrest and demotion from being a saint disciple. 1 year later, the Empire decides to release Iska on one condition. They want him to make amends for his crime. A new powerful witch has surfaced in Nebulous, and she is known as the Ice Calamity Witch. She has caused the Empire loads of trouble on the front line. The Empire believes that Iska is capable of stopping this witch. He is immediately set free, and he is informed that he will be transported to the front line in the coming hours. Iska tells the higher-ups about the people he wants in his unit. Shortly afterward, those in Iska's unit regroup. There is Jin, Nene, and Captain Mismis. They start traveling to the mission site in an armored vehicle. During the journey, Jin reveals that Nebulous isn't aware of Iska yet. They don't know of his abilities because he has been locked. Basically, Iska is the Empire's trump card. Jin points out that the Ice Calamity Witch is also dangerous. Iska's goal is to put an end to the raging war. Soon afterward, they arrive at the mission site. The mission site is where a reactor core is located. The mages have been attacking the site, and this has prevented the engineer from finishing the development of the core. The unit receives a report that the soldiers are engaging some astral forces, and they need backup. The unit immediately gets in their vehicle and starts going to where the battle is happening. Suddenly, the unit sees an attack coming toward the vehicle, and they jump out before they get hit. Astral mages suddenly start popping out of the ground, and Jin realizes that the mages went underground to avoid detection. The mages throw a powerful attack at the unit, but Iska easily cuts it off, and this shocks the mages. The unit is prepared for this kind of scenario, and they launch a bunch of anti-astral magic rockets from their vehicle. This then makes it easy for Iska to eliminate the mages. Just then, the assistant to the Ice Calamity Witch named Rin shows up. She uses her Earth astral power to summon a golem, but the golem doesn't appear to stand a chance Iska. The rest of the unit tells Iska to deal with Rin while they check out the rest of the troops. Iska easily disarms Rin even with all the tricks she throws at him. Iska demands to know where the Ice Calamity Witch is, but Rin keeps her mouth shut. The Ice Calamity Witch suddenly shows up and shows Iska why she is called the Ice Calamity Witch. She uses her ice power to freeze up the entire forest up to where the reactor is located. Rin has been stalling Iska so that the Calamity Witch will be able to destroy the reactor. She activates her power and the reactor shatters immediately. The Calamity Witch is surprised that someone who is not a saint disciple has the skill to keep up with Rin. She then introduces herself as Alice. Apparently, Alice is the daughter of Nebulous's ruler. Iska and Alice start to attack each other. Alice creates several ice attacks, but Iska cuts them away with his powerful sword. He even awakens a power that allows him to make clones of the sword. During their fight, Iska reveals that his goal is to stop the ongoing war. The fight was so intense that the all-powerful Alice had to take a step back. Even Rin is surprised by this. Alice then reveals that her own plan is to reunite the nations and make everyone live in peace. While giving her speech, she steps on a soft surface, and she is about to fall to the ground before Iska catches her. The situation looks awkward, and Alice quickly jumps down. Just then, they hear Jin and the rest coming back. Alice and Rin quickly mount her giant royal bird and fly away. The next day, Alice decides to visit the neutral city of Ain to see a play in the opera. The play is so emotional, and Alice is moved to tears. She cries loudly, and the person behind her could even hear. Her handkerchief is already wet, and she needs another one. The boy sitting behind her then offers her his handkerchief. The light comes on to reveal that the boy is Iska. The duo is in shock to see each other at the opera. Now let's take a look at how Iska ended up in the opera house. After the reactor mission, Iska finds it hard to sleep. Mismis says it might be a psychological effect that came from him fighting the Ice Calamity Witch. She proposes a change of scenery. This actually works for her, and it might work for Iska as well. She still has a ticket to a play that will be shown in the neutral city. She gives Iska the ticket and also offers to drive him to Ain. During the trip, Iska falls asleep and dreams of his master, Crow. Crow was the one who handed over the legendary swords to Iska. This brings us up to speed on how Iska ended up in the opera house. Alice sees Iska and believes that he is there to ambush her. She is about to start fighting when Rin reminds her that they are in the neutral city of Ain, and violence is prohibited. Alice feels embarrassed that Iska heard her crying, but she shrugs it off. She greets Iska and tells him that they will meet another day to settle their unfinished fight. Alice and Rin leave the opera and they decide to get something to eat. They visit a restaurant and they haven't even settled down when Iska also enters the restaurant. Alice accuses him of stalking, but he claims that the restaurant is the closest to the opera and he needed to eat also. The trio then shares the same table. I wonder why they are sharing the same table, though. The menu is presented to them. Iska and Alice look through the menu to find what to eat. When the waitress came over to take their order, The duo ordered exactly the same thing, spoke in synchronization too. They ordered pasta with a creamy sauce. As they eat, they talk about how delicious the food is and how pasta is their favorite meal. They even discuss several ways to cook it. Rin had to remind the duo that they are enemies. Upon getting home, Rin tells Alice that she will intentionally not report what happened today to the Queen. Alice also decides to keep the handkerchief that Iska gave her. She finds it hard to sleep because she is thinking of Iska, and at the same time, Iska is thinking of her too. Up next, one of their former colleagues, Risha, who is now a counsel to the Special Force, arrives. She informs Miss that her unit will be under her command for the next mission they are about to embark on. Risha also heard that Iska is having trouble sleeping. She then decides to give Iska the ticket to an art exhibition. The art exhibition is also taking place in the neutral city. Now at Nebulous, Alice's mother calls her to the secret chambers. The Queen shows Alice the body of the founder of Nebulous. Nebulous is in a bind, but she is still alive. She had a sister in the past, and the duo were powerful. The Empire doesn't know that the Nebulous are two sisters. They were happy when the other sister died, but they didn't know that the founder was still alive. She is very powerful, but she is in a state of sleep. The Queen says the magic bind around the founder started to weaken the day she fought Iska. Alice's mother warns her not to fight Iska till they understand the kind of person he is. With the way things are going, it is possible that Iska might be stronger than they think. After the meeting with her mother, Alice tells Rin of her desire to visit the art exhibition happening in Ain. The duo believes that the last occurrence with Iska was a coincidence and it won't happen again. How wrong could they be when they get to Ain and they run into Iska once again? The duo reveals their intentions to visit the museum. Alice decides to go another way, but she ends up getting lost until Iska found her and offered to take her to the museum. They watch the artwork together. After that, they sit on a public bench while they share a drink. Iska says he is 16 years old and Alice realizes that she is older than him. Turns out that Iska is not supposed to take strong wine because he is still young. Alice is about to mention this when Iska falls asleep on her shoulders. Iska looks cute when sleeping and Alice allows it. Up next, Iska is summoned to the Imperial Senate room to have a chat with the higher-ups. Iska is praised for his ability to hold his own against the Calamity Witch. Iska tries to point out that he failed to protect the reactor, but the Empire says his mission was to show Nebulous that they have their own secret weapon too, and he did that to perfection. The Empire tells Iska that his next mission is to apprehend the Calamity Witch. He is guaranteed a promotion to be a Saint Disciple if he can pull it off. His chances of also meeting with the ruler will go up if he manages to do so. It is then revealed that Alice was the one that ordered a taxi for Iska when he slept off the other night. Later that night, Iska informs Miss that he is going to Ain for a mission. Miss offers to follow him, but she doesn't know the details of the mission yet. Meanwhile, Alice has received a dossier on Iska. She learns that Iska was a Saint Disciple but was demoted because he set free a mage that was being held in a cell. It is reported that Iska is the youngest to be a Saint Disciple and he is termed as a very expert swordsman. Alice then tells Rin to find out why Iska freed the mage. After her discussion with Rin, her mother comes in. Her mother reminds her that the Empire is their greatest enemy and their aim is to destroy Nebulous. Alice's mother wants her to reduce her interest in Iska. Immediately after her mother left the room, Alice calls Rin to inform her of her plan to visit Ain again. She hopes to meet Iska at Ain because there are certain things she wants to learn. The following day, Iska and Alice meet again in the neutral city, and it doesn't come as a surprise because it now seems like they are in sync. Alice introduces herself to Miss and she almost craps her pants when she learns that Alice is the Calamity Witch. The group then moves to a quiet area to discuss. Alice asks Iska why he freed the mage. Iska says the girl was still very young, but the Empire didn't care about that. His views are different from the Empire's. Iska wants to stop the war and hatred that is between the two nations. Iska further adds that he wishes to capture Alice to use her as a peace negotiation between the two nations. If he is able to capture Alice and hold her hostage, Nebulous will be forced to sit down for peace talks. Alice then shocks Iska by telling her that her mother will not sit down for a peaceful talk even if she is captured. The people in Nebulous loathe the Empire too much. Alice then proposes her offer. Iska will defect from the Empire to Nebulous and serve under her. Everyone is still talking about how absurd her proposal is when the sky suddenly changes color. The founder appears from the sky and Iska is surprised that the Grand Witch Nebulous is alive. The founder senses Iska and she launches a powerful attack on Iska, but this also affects everyone around him. Meanwhile, Alice's mother has found out that Nebulous has been set free, and this makes her very happy because no one can step up to her power. Iska manages to wake the others from the effect of Nebulous's attack. Alice is supposed to be on Nebulus's side, but she is angry that her attacks affected her too. She decides to join hands with Iska and attack the Founder. The Founder is furious that Alice dares stay in her way, and she throws a fire arrow at her, but Rin gets in the way and is knocked out. Iska suggests that Alice uses her ice power to freeze Rin's body to keep her alive. Miss then takes Rin to the hospital, while Iska and Alice are left to deal with the Founder. The Founder sees Iska's swords, and she recognizes them as Crow's swords. Iska is surprised that Nebulus even knows his master. A fierce battle ensues between the Founder and the duo. Iska charges toward Nebulus, and Alice uses her ice power to create a shield wall for him till he makes it to where Nebulus is. He uses a blitz attack to cut the Founder down, and she falls from the sky into the ice-cold water beneath them. Up next, Miss and her unit visit the casino in another city to try and win some money. Miss wants to use the money to buy a tank for them so that they can escape in it if trouble arises. Miss hopes that they can hit the jackpot in order to win a lot of money. While they are doing this, Alice and Rin also enter the casino. The duo decides not to visit Ein so as not to run into Iska. The duo walks past Iska and his unit, but they don't see each other. They make their way to the slot machine. Alice puts in her stake and hits the jackpot. Nene is walking by when she sees this. She runs over to congratulate Alice. She doesn't know who Alice is because they haven't met before. Nene talks about how they are trying to hit the jackpot too, but they have been failing in that aspect. Upon hearing this, Alice decides to share her winnings and gives them to Nene. Alice doesn't need the money because she is rich enough already. Nene runs to her unit to inform them of what happened. When describing Alice, Iska is able to catch on that the person she is talking about is Alice. After leaving the casino, Alice enters a fortune teller stall. She reveals her intention to see Iska, and the fortune teller checks her card. She says the person she is looking for is nearby. The fortune teller adds that the duo has a bond that no ill fate can destroy. Alice leaves the stall with the belief that the fortune teller is saying what she likes. Just as they leave the stall, Iska arrives at the scene. He enters the stall also, and the fortune teller tells him exactly what she told Alice. Up next, the Empire informs Risha that she should mobilize Miss and her unit and send them to Murder Canyon. Risha then calls Miss to inform her of her next mission. It is said that a vortex is opening at Murder Canyon. The first vortex that opened is what gave the witches their powers. The Empire doesn't want Nebulus to get their hands on the vortex. A saint disciple called Nameless is already on site with several other troops, but Iska and his unit are being sent as backup. Now in Nebulus, Alice receives a report about the vortex. She's surprised that the Zoa family, who is in charge of the area, has not given a report about it. Rin reveals the possibility that the Zoa family might want to keep the vortex for themselves. Rin is pretty confident that the Empire will also be on the move because Murder Canyon is near their borders. Alice and Rin then find a representative from the Zoa family. The man is popularly known as the Masked Man because he always wears a mask. The Masked Man says they didn't want to report it because they didn't count it as a vortex, but rather an energy disturbance. However, the family's head is on his way to report it. Upon getting to the military base, Miss meets one of her old friends, Noro. Their reunion is cut off when Nameless orders everyone to gather themselves. Earlier on, Miss assures Iska that she didn't report their encounter with the Calamity Witch. Nameless is wearing a suit that covers his whole body and does not even reveal his face. Nameless informs the soldiers of their mission. They are to find the vortex and take control of it, and if they can't, it should be destroyed. The soldiers set out in groups to find the vortex, but their search was unsuccessful. During the search, 3 units went missing, but Nameless decided not to send out search teams for them. Iska is surprised by this, and he decides to ask Nameless about it because Nameless was once his colleague. Iska gets to Nameless's office to demand why search units are not sent out for the missing troops. Nameless shrugs him off and says his rank is not high enough to question him. Miss then enters to ask on Iska's behalf. When the duo returns to their chambers, they reveal that Nameless did not answer the question. Up next, Alice and Rin find the location of the vortex, and they are surprised that the Masked Lord is trying to hide it. The Masked Lord shows up and says the vortex was just discovered moments ago, and they were about to report it. A girl wearing a mask also shows up, and the Masked Lord calls her Kissing. He says Kissing is a purebred just like Alice, and there is even the possibility that she's stronger than Alice. The Masked Lord assures Alice that she can leave the protection of the vortex to him and Kissing. Alice realizes that the Masked Lord actually wants an all-out war with the Empire. Meanwhile, Miss and her unit are away from the base in search of the vortex when they learn that there is an astral reading at the base. This shows that astral mages have infiltrated the base. The unit is informed that they have started moving everything to the second base. The unit sees a bright light in the distance, and when Nain checks the reading, she realizes that the bright light is coming from the vortex, and there is no doubt about that. The team decides to check it out. They are stopped on the way by Noro and her unit. Turns out that Noro is a spy from Nebulous. She was born and raised as a spy for Nebulous. She manages to capture Miss and she holds her hostage. Suddenly they hear a voice around them. The voice turns out to be Nameless, and he uses his camouflage state to eliminate all of Noro's unit. Rano is the only one left, and she is still holding Miss hostage. She starts running towards the armored vehicle. Nameless throws a knife at her, but Iska blocked it. The knife would have killed both Rano, and Miss Rano is able to escape with Miss Nameless leaves with the promise to bomb the enemy base till there is nothing left. Now at Nebulous's military base, Rano arrives with the already captured Miss recognizes Alice, and she is about to mention her name when Rin knocks her out to keep the secret that they have met before. Alice then decides to go to the enemy base to find Iska. She wishes to fight Iska. On the other hand, Iska and the unit are still trying to find a way to sneak into the base when they realize that the Empire is firing missiles at the base already. Nebulous isn't worried because they have started evacuating to the second base. Iska is able to make it there on time, and he finds Rano holding Miss. He cuts Miss free from Rano's grasp. Rano tries to attack him, but Iska is way above his league. Just then, Kissing arrives at the scene. Iska realizes that Kissing is a purebred, and this already tells him that she is not to be taken lightly. Meanwhile, Alice and Rin have made it to the Empire's base, but it is evacuated already. Nameless shows up and attacks the duo. Alice is more than happy to fight Nameless. A battle ensues between the duo, and Nameless gains the upper hand. Alice sees that Nameless is stronger than she anticipated. She decides to show Nameless what she is made of. She uses her power to freeze everything around, and she is about to annihilate Nameless, but he manages to escape. Back at the Vortex site, Kissing creates a powerful rocket with her power and fires it at Iska. She is confident that Iska is dead, but she is shocked when Iska walks out unscathed. Kissing deduces that Iska's black sword is for cutting astral art, while the white is for resurrecting it. She then creates another spell and tries to attack Iska, but Iska uses a blitz attack to reach her before her attacks could reach him. He knocks Kissing out with the handle of his sword. Suddenly, the masked lord appears and stabs Iska in the back. He picks Kissing up and pushes Miss into the vortex before escaping. Iska jumps after Miss, and at the same time, Alice arrives at the scene also. She jumps after the duo. Iska manages to catch Miss while Alice is able to catch the duo. She uses her power to create a slab that starts to take them back to the surface, but the astral spirit located inside the vortex erupts, and the explosion separates the trio. Iska and Miss land in another place, while Alice also lands in a different place. Up next, Rin realizes that Alice is worried about Iska. She suggests that they should keep visiting the neutral city, and they might be lucky to run into Iska. In the Empire, Miss is seen apologizing to her team members for the inconveniences she might have caused them due to her kidnapping. The team scolds her that there is no need to apologize. Just then, Rissia enters to inform the team that their next mission will be to infiltrate Nebulous. They are shocked by this, but Rissia says they are already making plans as to how it will be carried out. It will be communicated to them later. Now at the neutral city, Alice and Rin have been waiting for so long, and Iska has not shown up. Rin points out that Iska might have died when he fell into the vortex, but Alice is positive that Iska is alive. Alice then suggests that they split up to find Iska. Meanwhile, Rin has another objective, and that is to eliminate Iska. She believes that Iska is a distraction to Alice. Elections are coming up, and other houses might try to overthrow Alice because she is next in line after her mother. Back in the Empire, the team is still shocked by the impossible mission that the Empire is giving to them. Miss starts feeling some discomfort on her shoulders. They decide to check it out. Miss takes off the clothing on her shoulder, and everyone is taken aback when they see the astral crest on her shoulder. They deduce that the astral spirit must have possessed Miss when she was in the vortex because the spirit sees her as a suitable host. To put it short, Miss is now a witch. The Empire will definitely terminate her if they should find out. The least punishment is for the Empire to imprison her. The team doesn't want this to happen, and they decide that they will keep it a secret. Later on, Nena, Jin, and Iska meet up to discuss what they can do. There is no way that Miss can hide her status from a saint disciple. Any encounter with a skilled person or a saint warrior will expose her. Iska then gets an idea while they are discussing. The following day, Iska takes Miss to the neutral city. She will continue to stay there till they can figure out what to do. The Empire cannot do anything to her once she is in the city. After some minutes of sitting down at the park, Miss stands up to go and get something to drink for the two of them. Just then, Alice arrives at the scene, and the duo is happy to see each other even if they won't accept it. Iska tells Alice that he is in the neutral city on a secret business. Alice asks him to tell her about it. Iska is about to tell her when Rin shows up. Rin then offers Iska a drink and he collects it. He starts feeling dizzy and Rin confesses that she spiked his drink with a sleep-inducing drug. She didn't expect him to drink it, and she regretted not spiking it with poison instead. Alice reprimands her for doing such in the neutral city, but the deed is done already. Rin says the only option they have is to take Iska into custody. She carries Iska on her shoulder. Just then, Miss arrives at the scene. She is surprised to see what Rin and Alice are pulling off in the neutral city. Alice says she can't explain, and this infuriates Miss. Suddenly, a bright green light shines from her shoulder. She runs towards Alice, but Alice uses her ice powers to hold her down. Miss watches helplessly as Alice and Rin take Iska away. Alice wears a smug on her face as she walks away. Probably because Miss is now a witch. Later on, Rissia informs the Emperor that Iska has been captured by Nebulous. Alice instructs Rin that Iska should not be taken to their capital, or any major city in Nebulous. Iska will surely be executed if he steps foot in Nebulous. They decide to take him to the 13th province of Nebulous, which is called Alcatraz. The whole prison is specifically made for prisoners, but Alice has a safe house in the province. After her discussion with the Emperor, Rissia has a chat with the military heads. They tell her to continue the secret op that she is on, but she informs them that the Emperor has put priority on rescuing Iska. Rissia tells the higher-ups of her plan to sneak into Alcatraz and free the man known as the heretical demon, Salinger. He once went against the Queen and he was locked up for it. Rissia then contacts Iska's team members. She shows them the plan that they intend to use in entering Nebulous without detection. He brings out a sprayer that has been designed to imprint an astral crest on the user. The crest will start to emit astral energy. This should be enough to trick their system from any detection. The crest will also be there for 1 week. Rissia brings out the sprayer and uses it on Neen, and it forms a perfectly fit crest. Jin collects one of the canisters and asks Miss to raise her shoulders. She then sprays it on the same spot where her astral crest is located. Jin applies the crest also, and they are good to go. The team will now head to Alcatraz and look for Iska. Alice and Rin are still transporting Iska when he wakes up. Alice is surprised about how high his tolerance level is because he shouldn't be awake for the next couple of hours. Alice quickly tells Iska that Rin acted out of her volition and she didn't receive the order from him. Rin also blames Iska for easily taking the drink from her and gulping it without suspicion. Meanwhile, Jin and the rest of the team have successfully passed through Nebulous's borders. Alice, Iska, and Rin arrive at Alice's safe house. Iska is in handcuffs, so his movement is restricted. Rin would like to keep him that way because she does not trust Iska. Meanwhile, Jean and the rest of the team find out that Rissia is also in Alcatraz. When Alice is out of the room, Rin tries to kill Iska, but Alice comes back just in time to stop her. On the other hand, Jin and the team have managed to sneak into the prison, but Rissia has gone her own way. They are surprised by this and conclude that Rissia is there on another business entirely. Rissia is a saint disciple, and it is extremely rare before a saint disciple will leave the Empire. They are meant to stay in the Empire and provide security for the Emperor. Her leaving the Empire shows that what she is after is also important. Back in Alice's castle, Alice decides to cuff herself to Iska, but the plan soon fails again when Alice needs to use the bathroom. Iska is then cuffed to Rin. Rin reveals that her plan is to keep Iska locked away forever in Alcatraz. When Alice finishes bathing, she shows Iska the giant crest on her back and asks what he thinks about her. Iska reveals that he doesn't count those that have the crest as demons. This is one of the reasons he wants to stop the war. He then reveals that Miss also has the crest now, and that doesn't change the way he looks at her or respects her. Meanwhile, Rissia has been able to sneak into Salinger's cell room to have a chat with him. Rissia informs Salinger of the Empire's plan to invade Nebulous and the reason they need his help. Salinger makes fun of Rias and the Empire for believing that he seeks revenge. However, he is ready to help them because he is tired of staying in prison. Now in Alice's safe house, Iska is having difficulty sleeping, and he decides to take a step outside. Alice also joins him outside. Alice then points to the Olelugan prison tower that is in the distance. She tells Iska that they are holding the most dangerous criminal they have had in the tower. Of course, she is talking about no other person than Salinger. Rin arrives to inform Alice that they have received a report that covert teams from the Empire have infiltrated Nebulous. Iska is out of the picture because they have been with him since. Now in the tower, the emergency alarm goes off, and Miss's unit realizes that they have been found out. Suddenly, the building starts to shake vigorously from the resulting explosion. The explosion is a result of Salinger escaping his cell. He blows a hole through his underground cell to the top of the building. Rissia then calls Miss to tell them that Iska is not in the tower, and they should find a way to escape before the guards catch them. Jin laments that the guards are already around them, and Risya should have communicated earlier. Alice is also informed that Salinger might have escaped from his cell room. She instructs Rin to prepare their transport vehicle, and they will move out immediately. Alice then asks Iska if he will help her if she asks for it, but Iska does not give an answer. Alice then brings out a black handkerchief and puts it on the table. She says the handkerchief is a replacement for the handkerchief Iska gave her. Alice then leaves after saying goodbye to Iska. Inside Olulagan Tower, Jean and his team need bait to get the guards in one place. Miss decides to act as bait because of her astral crest. The guards will easily believe that she is one of the escapee mages. Miss jumps out and calls the guards' attention to herself. The guards begin to chase her and they finally corner her. They are about to terminate her when Jin and Nene subdue the guards from behind. Moments later, Iska receives a call from Miss. Iska is surprised that Alice left his phone also. The group talks about where to meet. The only problem is how Iska will break out of his handcuffs. He suddenly remembers the handkerchief Alice dropped on the table. Iska checks the handkerchief, and he finds the cuff keys in the middle of the clothing. Iska is sad that he didn't quickly catch on to Alice's intentions when she gave him the handkerchief. He uses the key to uncuff himself and tells his unit that he is on his way. Up next, other agents from the Empire have caused a fire as a distraction, and Alice goes there to put it out. The guards are surprised that the princess is in their midst, and they all bow down as a sign of respect. Rin then makes her way to Salinger's cell to confront him. Meanwhile, Iska has also regrouped with his unit, and Miss has given him his astral swords. After collecting his swords, Iska leaves and tells them to wait for him. Apparently, he is on his way to the prison tower. Rin finds Salinger sitting on top of rubble and debris. He says he is a king and reveals his plans to eliminate all the purebreds and take their powers for himself. Rin attacks him with her earth magic. Salinger is surprised to see how powerful Rin is, but he just laughs, because Rin does not pose a threat to him. Salinger counters all of Rin's attacks and hits her with a fatal blow in return. Rin fell to the ground and couldn't move her body again. Salinger shoots an invincible blast that is meant to finish her off, but Iska arrives just in time to slash through the blast. Salinger is shocked that Iska is able to cut through his invincible attack. Iska then makes Rin promise that he and his team will leave Nebulous freely if he manages to defeat Salinger. Meanwhile, Alice's sister Sisbel is informed of the trouble going on in Alcatraz. She also learns that her sister is there and she has taken charge. The battle between Iska and Salinger begins gradually. Salinger tests him with an invisible attack, but Iska reacts to it in a split second and he is able to cut the attack. Salinger deduces that Iska has heightened his senses to be able to cope with his skills. Salinger almost craps his pants when Iska uses a speed attack to come close to him. Iska would have ended the fight right there if not for the wind barrier around Salinger. Salinger begins to attack Iska with different astral energy. On the other hand, Nameless has found Alice. Alice is ready to fight him, but Nameless jumps on top of the bridge and decides to escape from there. Alice looks in the distance and sees the intense battle between Iska and Salinger. The scene shifts to Salinger and Iska. Salinger combines two astral magic attacks and throws them at Iska. Iska tries to cut through the attack, but he gets caught in the resulting explosion. Salinger believes that Iska is dead, and he starts to mock Rin. Rin is still pretty confident that Iska will come out of the explosion alive. She reveals that Iska was able to defeat the Founder, and in terms of strength, the Founder is better than Salinger. Rin has not finished her sentence when Iska appears out of nowhere, and the fear on Salinger's face is pretty obvious. Iska informs Salinger that his two swords are powerful. He was able to use the white sword to create a shield that protected him from the attack and the explosion. Iska is not ready to let Alice down because she trusts in him to defeat Salinger. Salinger then creates a sandstorm to try and eliminate Rin with it, but Alice arrives just in time to block the attack with her ice powers. Salinger then creates two swords and tries to go head-to-head with Iska, but Iska uses a speed attack to destroy Salinger's sword and land a devastating blow. Salinger accepts that he has found a worthy opponent, and he decides to retreat for now. The following day, Alice tells Rin that they need to report everything to Her Majesty. Alice is thankful that Iska chose to help instead of escaping when he broke out of his cuffs. Elsewhere, Nameless arrives back in the Empire. Nameless walks out of the plane, and we see the real Nameless waiting for him. The fake Nameless takes off the mask to reveal that Risya was the one that engaged Alice the other night. Nameless informs Risya that their mission to infiltrate the central city of Nebulous was successful. Turns out that Nameless and his unit had infiltrated Nebulous while they were still having trouble with Alcatraz. They now have surveillance in the nation. Risya is also to report everything to the Emperor. It seems the Emperor is quite interested in Iska. Elsewhere, Miss and her unit have left Nebulous, and they are on the way to the Empire. Iska promises to do everything in his power to help Miss concerning the astral crest on her shoulder. Later that night, Alice and Rin are seen talking about Iska. Turns out that Sisbel has surveillance on Alice, and she is able to listen to all the conversations. The name Iska sounds familiar to Sisbel, and she soon realizes that Iska was the one that releases him from prison. Princess Sisbel is the little girl Iska released from prison over a year ago. Up next, Nameless and Risya go to the Emperor. What excites the Emperor the most is the fact that Alice is in love with Iska. This should prove a weak link if they decide to hit Nebulous. Sisbel also has a dream that someone is coming after her mother. Later on, the queen calls Sisbel to the throne room. She wants Sisbel to go to the city of Altamira. Altamira have not declared neutrality like Ain, and there are reports coming from there that they are in cahoots with the Empire. The queen wants Sisbel to gather intel with the use of her abilities. Turns out that Sisbel's power allows her to listen in on people's conversations even if she is not there. She can also visit the past with her ability to get information. Just as Sisbel leaves the room, the queen is informed that the first princess, Elatir, is on her way back. Elatir is the first daughter, Alice is the second, and Sisbel is the third child. Now in the Empire, Miss's unit is given a forced leave. Apparently they have overworked, and they deserve a vacation. Miss is happy because this will extend the astral test a little bit further. The team is happy that they can also use the opportunity to find a way to conceal Miss's astral crest. Soon afterward, Elatir returns and Alice gets ready to go and greet her. She sees Sisbel on her way, but Sisbel is not interested in the formalities. Rin points out that Sisbel has been acting weird in recent times. Alice attaches it to the stress and pressure that comes with the elections coming up. Rin also tells Alice about the journey Sisbel is about to embark on. Moments later, Sisbel meets with her butler, Schwartz. The duo prepares to leave for Altamira immediately. Sisbel has refused to take any security or official with her because they cannot be trusted. She usually uses her power to monitor those in the palace, and she knows that their intentions are not pure. Alice is considered the favorite to take over from her mother, but some people are against it. Meanwhile, we see Elatir meeting with the Masked Lord. Elatir reveals that there is someone in Nebulous working for the Empire. Soon afterward, Iska and his unit arrive in Altamira for their vacation. This is the same city that Sisbel is visiting for her mission. The team visits the beach and starts to have fun almost immediately. They take lots of drinks also, and Miss gets knocked out. While returning to their hotel, Neen needed to use the bathroom, so Iska waited for her. Jin and Miss continue going to the hotel because Jin is the one carrying Miss Iska is waiting for Nana when someone bumps into him. Upon turning back, he realizes that the person facing him is Sisbel, the same girl he released from her cell room. Before further conversation could take place, Neen arrives and Sisbel disappears from the scene immediately. Sisbel then tells Schwartz who she saw. She promises to make her findings in the night. Later that night, Sisbel returns to the spot where she bumped into Iska. She then uses her power to start tracing Iska's directions to know where he is staying. Sisbel and Schwartz believe that Iska is in the city on a secret op. Meanwhile, Alice and Rin have been called over by the Queen. The Queen has also noticed something different about Sisbel, and she wants them to search her room. They enter her room and they start their search. Alice and Rin are surprised when they see an article about Iska in Sisbel's room. They wonder how Sisbel knows Iska. On the other hand, Sisbel has managed to sneak into Iska's room. She then asks Iska to come back to Nebulous with her. Back in Sisbel's room, Alice is worried that Sisbel might have used her astral powers to listen to all their conversations. Rin assures her that Sisbel's power can only reach 300 meters. There is also the concern that Sisbel suspects Alice of being in cahoots with Alice. Now in Iska's hotel room, Sisbel thanks him for helping her the last time. She didn't believe that Iska was actually going to help until she was able to escape successfully. Sisbel gives Iska a bracelet as appreciation, but he humbly rejects it. He didn't help to get a reward in return. Sisbel then lies to Iska that she is a servant in the royal court. She didn't reveal that she is a princess. Sisbel then urges Iska to come with her back to Nebulous. Iska just stands there looking like a sheep and doesn't even know what to say. Sisbel leaves and promises to come back for his answer. Before leaving, Sisbel drops the bracelet for him. Meanwhile, Rin has made a suggestion to the Queen. She wants Alice to find Sisbel and spend some quality time with her. Once Sisbel is comfortable around her sister, she will be able to confide in her. Now in the Empire, the Senate receives news that Sisbel is all by herself in Altamira. This sounds like a good opportunity to capture her. The Senate orders that the new machine they just developed be sent to Altamira to capture Sisbel. Up next, Elatir sets up another meeting with the Masked Lord. She then tells the Masked Lord that she suspects her two sisters of being in cahoots with the Empire. The Masked Lord is surprised by this and promises to investigate the matter. Alice is on her way to Altamira when the bus bumps into something. She comes down to check and she sees giant claw prints that lead to Altamira. She immediately senses that something might be wrong. Later on, Iska makes the whole team change hotels. They are surprised that they are moving to another hotel, but Iska doesn't tell them the reason behind what he is doing. They still have to find a solution to Mrs. Astral's crest. The team doesn't need to worry because they still have 60 days to find a solution. They soon arrive at the hotel. Iska excuses himself for a little bit, but Jin suspects that something is going on with him. Iska gets outside the hotel and runs into Sisbel. He is shocked as to how she knew where he was. He tells Sisbel to follow him so that they can find somewhere quiet and peaceful to talk. They get to a location that they deem safe. Sisbel reveals that her astral magic allows her to display the past like a video. This type of power is very rare because it interferes with space and time. Iska is surprised to see Sisbel sharing the information with him. Sisbel wants him to trust her, and that is the reason she is being honest with him. Talking about being honest, Sisbel then reveals that she is a princess and not a servant like she made him believe earlier on. Iska is shocked by this, and it dawns on him that Sisbel is Alice's sister. Sisbel then reveals that there is someone planning to kill her mother and cause chaos. She doesn't know who it is, but she knows that someone is planning something evil. They also want to drag Nebulous into an all-out war with the Empire. This might result in the total annihilation of both nations. Sisbel wants Iska to help her prevent this war and keep her family safe. Sisbel then asks Iska to be her protector. Meanwhile, Alice has arrived at Sisbel's hotel room, but she can't find her. Schwartz then reveals that Sisbel went for a meeting, but she is supposed to be back, and she isn't. Iska hears Sisbel's proposition and kindly rejects it. What he wants is a total end to the war that has been raging for over 100 years. His goal is for the two nations to sit down for a peaceful talk. Just then, the masked lord appears behind Sisbel. He accuses Sisbel of being a traitor and meeting with an enemy. He already has a recording of their conversation. Sisbel starts to run away, and the masked lord tells his soldiers to chase after her. Iska stands in the way, and he is ready to take on all of them. Sisbel is still running away when suddenly the witch-hunting machine appears and stops her. Everyone watching is shocked as to what is standing in front of them. The bird-looking robot sends chills down the spines of everyone present. The masked lord does not care, and he still tells his soldiers to capture Sisbel. Iska jumps in and tries to fight them. We get to find out that the Masked Lord's astral power allows him to teleport. Just then, Jin and the rest of the unit arrived. Jin reveals that he suspected that something was wrong, and that is the reason he had everyone follow him. The machine scans everyone in its presence and marks Miss as one of its targets too. The Masked Lord tells his soldiers to engage the machine. Jin gets the attention of the Masked Lord, and he angrily tells his soldiers to throw fireballs at them. Iska collects his swords and goes after the machine before it hurts Sisbel. Neen begins her attack sequence while Iska is busy with the robot. After the sequence is done, she fires a barrage of missiles at the machine, and they believe that it's destroyed. On the other hand, a hand-to-hand combat ensues between the Masked Lord and Jin. Jihin uses a sleight of hand to bring out his sidearm and fires it into the Masked Lord's chest. The Masked Lord is saved by the recording device in his jacket pocket. This in turn means the recorded evidence he has against Sisbel is gone. The Masked Lord pushes down barrels containing gasoline. He instructs his underlings to set it on fire. They try to set the barrels on fire, but they find it hard to do. It turns out that Miss's astral power is that of wind. Her power interfered with the soldiers' powers and couldn't allow them to use their fire magic. The Masked Lord realizes that things are not going his way again, and he decides to retreat. Iska, Nene, and Sisbel are shocked when the machine resurfaces. It fires a powerful energy blast at Sisbel, but Iska manages to get her out of the way. Sisbel uses her power to create a smokescreen that allows Iska to move closer and push his sword into the machine's core. They think it is over until the machine suddenly transforms into an ant-like robot. It captures Sisbel, and Iska begins to do everything in his power to defeat the robot and free Sisbel. Iska wonders what kind of power the machine runs on. Just then, Alice arrives at the scene. She then reveals that the machine is an Astra spirit. Together, they launch a series of attacks on the machine. The machine begins to speak in the astral language. Alice and Iska then join hands together to increase their chances. They release a devastating energy blast that finally defeats the beast. Sisbel is released from its grasp after it was defeated. The Imperial Senate learns of the machine's failure, and they put it to mind to watch out for Iska. After the dust settles, Sisbel asks Alice and Iska if they know each other, but they deny themselves. This excites Sisbel, and she offers that Iska becomes her knight. Iska hears his friends' voices, and he uses the opportunity to escape. Up next, the Emperor, Yunmelgen, meets up with Salinger. Apparently, the duo knows each other from way back. Alice's mother also calls for Elatir. The queen is aware that Elatir tried to turn the kingdom against her sisters. The queen then asks a disturbing question. She asks where the real Elatir is. Turns out that the imposter has done something to the real princess. How do Salinger and the Emperor know each other? Where is the real Elatir? What is the Masked Lord's game plan? What is the Imperial Senate doing? What will become of Alice and Iska? These are the questions that have set the climax for the next chapter.